Hello, and welcome to AgingParents.com webinar. I'm Carolyn Rosenblatt.
And you happen to be sitting next to your great and wonderful husband, Dr. Mikol Davis, and we're glad that you're joining us. We're broadcasting to you right now live from Northern California, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge.
All right, what the webinar is about is how your parents getting old could cost you a fortune. And that fortune is measured both in terms of your time and in terms of your money. Most people need some help to figure out how to avoid the worst of both.
So one of the things that I think all of us boomers dread is getting that phone call in the middle of the night. I know that I often thought about it, and it finally did eventually happen that I got that call in the middle of the night, and my father was admitted to UCLA Hospital, and I was told by my family that I needed to be there right away. My dad was 89 years old. He had been healthy all his life. Our lives dramatically changed when Dad was in the hospital, and I spent 5 weeks at that hospital, UCLA, being by my dad's side, trying to support him and try to help him during those last weeks of his life. Suddenly I found myself put into a position of being a caregiver. I had lots of decisions to make. I wasn't prepared for the complexity of the decisions that were placed upon me. I took on the burden of taking care of my mom. She's now nearly 90. This was just about 3 or 4 years ago. And I've learned a lot since that phone call in the middle of the night. And I've had to make, unfortunately, some life and death decisions. And I have an ongoing responsibility for my mom since my dad passed. And much of the knowledge and much of the wisdom that I've learned about being a distant caregiver is the basis of a lot of what we're going to share with you about the cost of taking care of our aging parents, both financially and emotionally.
And I've been a caregiver too, and have learned firsthand the costs of caregiving in terms of time and money. And part of my motivation in doing this with you, as well as Mikol's, is we want to help you figure out how to avoid the burden of too much of your time and too much of your money, if that's possible. And we're going to give you some tools to assist you with that. So who's the webinar for? Well, if you want to have the confidence to do the right thing when it comes to caring for your aging parents, it's for you. If you are action-oriented, not just somebody who wants to talk about it or think about it or put it off, then this is for you.
If you're willing to face the unpleasant realities, then this is for you. Also, if you're worried that your plans for a good future are in danger because of your aging parents' needs, this is also who this webinar is for.
A lot of people are worried that your own plans for a good future are in danger because of your aging parents' needs. And this webinar is for you if that describes you. You want to know when to take the next steps to protect yourself financially. This webinar is for you.
Now let's talk about what it's not, because we don't want you to waste your time, and that's very valuable to us. And clearly, if you're not serious about facing your own aging or your aging parents' needs, then this webinar is not for you, and you don't need to be here right now. If you're a procrastinator, that's also an aspect that is going to avoid your being able to take action, and that's the main thing that we're going to help you with doing as a part of this webinar today.
This is also not for you if you prefer to maintain that unrealistic fantasy that your parents won't need any help from you as they age. Maybe they have that fantasy. But if you've joined that, this is not the place for you to be, this webinar.
Additionally, if you're not willing to invest the time and the money in being ready for what can happen, this webinar isn't for you.
All right, so the good news is there are specific things you can do to reduce your personal financial risk with your aging parents. We're going to give you some of those, some valuable answers in this webinar.
We're also going to give you a roadmap and personally guide you through the difficult terrain so that you can avoid the unnecessary financial costs and grief instead of disasters like we have found through many years in the work that we've done.
Okay, so the catch in all this, there's always a catch, is that you have to educate yourself and take action, as we're saying, before a crisis hits. We don't want crisis-driven people to be sitting back and thinking they can get by and begin their education after there's a crisis.
And I think it's valuable that, you're taking the time right now, which is a testament to the fact that you're trying to educate yourself about the issue of costs. So you've taken the first step, and we're glad that you have, and we're going to move you along that journey to help you see the things that you need to take action on to avoid costly mistakes of both time and also money. And so beyond educating yourself, it's really about talk. You've got to talk about it. You've got to think about it. You've got to deal with things that, you don't particularly want to deal with. And I can share with you in the 37 years that I have been in my profession as a psychologist dealing with people, there are lots of people that come to see me and they want to talk, but they don't want to take action. And this webinar is really about helping you take action. And part of the first step is really to start talking about it.
All right, so educating yourself requires investment. You have to invest yourself in the process. You have to invest your resources in learning what to do. Most of us don't know what to do, so that's what this is about.
So today we're going to help you leap ahead in your confidence about planning for what's coming with aging parents, and we're going to show you what has succeeded for others like you. We're going to help you implement the same techniques that have worked for our clients over and over again.
All right, so the agenda for today consists of first telling you what can require you to spend money for your aging parents. What are the things that are the expense items?
The second part of our agenda today is really that we're going to be sharing some real-life examples of what happened to people who waited and how you can avoid making the same mistakes that these people made.
And third on the agenda is showing you how much caring for your parents actually costs, no matter who pays for it, whether there's a source outside you or it is you, dollars and cents.
Now there's a special bonus for you that hang with us throughout the webinar. At the end of the webinar, we're going to offer you our free Aging Parents Survival Guide Toolkit for all of you that stay to the end of the presentation, and there will be a link at the end for you to be able to download and get that survival guide.
And it's a package of things that help you organize with forms, a lot of things that are useful for people that we have tested and have gotten good feedback about. So
why is this important for you? Well, you can't be proactive in avoiding pitfalls with aging parents if you don't know what to do. And we're going to help you learn some of those specifics right now.
You can help your aging parents avoid doing things that cause them to run out of money. We're going to show you what the red flags look like so that you know when to act, what to act upon to help prevent them from falling into that sort of situation. So
first, what we're going to show you will be a lot easier to put into use because we're going to make it very, very clear. Next, we're going to get going with things so that that you can start implementing many of the things that we're going to share with you today. And they're going to be things that you can use right away, whether you work with us in the future or not. These are things that you can begin to implement in your lives.
All right, well, why is this so important? It's important because we're going to help you manage family conflicts. Most of us have some difficulty in the family, not everybody, but there are proven techniques that work even with really difficult families. We're going to help you understand how that goes.
We'll also instruct you in the basics that it's going to give you every confidence to become an effective advocate for your aging parents when dealing with doctors and healthcare providers. And this is something that we know all too well, and we practice on a daily basis. I know I do that a lot with my 90-year-old mom.
All right, so specifically, why are you here? Why exactly do you want to get out of investing your time to be here today? First of all, you have to form your clear purpose. That's really an overall goal. You have to have a clear purpose in this picture of wanting to do right by your aging parents and to avoid financial catastrophe. You want to be clear about what you want your aging loved ones to do to help themselves. Are they going there? Are your parents doing things that are going to lead them to disaster?
You've got to be clear about what you want to do to prevent them from making foolish mistakes that end up costing you. And we're going to talk very specifically about some of those foolish mistakes that many folks have made and how it has cost many members of their family.
Part of forming your clear purpose is to be clear about how much or when you want to help and can help your parents financially or with your time. You want to know the dollars involved. What can you afford?
You also need to be clear about what steps that you're going to take now as we guide you.
All right, so Mikol's going to share a story with you that just happened recently involving Mom. And, as he mentioned, Mom's just almost 90 now. And she ended up going to the emergency room just recently, and it brought together a lot of things that are part of this webinar lesson.
So the headline that you're reading there is exactly what my mother said to me on the phone last Thursday night about 7 o'clock, just after Carol and I finished dinner. We're sitting at the table, and my cell phone rings. I see it's from Mom. I pick it up, and Mom says in a very faint voice, "Son, I think I just had a stroke." You can only imagine emotionally what that would feel like if your parent called you and said to you that. Fortunately for us, I had a plan. I knew what to do. I knew that I had to help Mom avoid the panic. I needed Mom to help her avoid the confusion. I needed to have a plan in mind in how I was going to work with my sibling. I needed to figure out whether or not emergency ambulance needed to be there right away. We needed to dispatch friends in the area to come to the house. We needed to determine the level of need, whether or not I needed to immediately get on an airplane and fly down there. We needed to decide what local resources were available. There was a lot of which that we had to scramble and get done, including helping Mom not get out of control and developing more complications because Mom has very high blood pressure. So I'll tell you what we did. We really used some of the same techniques that got us through Dad's last days and many decisions and problems that followed after Dad's passing. We worked as a team. I'm blessed. We've been married for over 30 years, and we really know how to help one another. So I'm real fortunate that I'm not in this alone. Many of us are the sole caregivers, and we are alone, and we don't have the resource of a partner to be able to work with. We had a plan. We had legal documents that were in order. We had the information we needed to contact the key people right at our fingertips. We didn't have to fumble and bumble. I didn't have to try to remember who the neighbor was and what their name was, their phone number, whether or not they had a cell phone. There was a plan in place for dealing with my sibling. And this is a critical part because that communication is either going to help and assist in a time of need or it's going to complicate the problem. And this is something we thought out long and hard, and it's something that we are going to offer you a little bit of insight later on. Now, fourth, what we did that was very effective is that we were familiar with the local resources in Mom's area. We knew the local hospital. We knew the procedure. Mom had one of those medical alerts. We made sure that she pressed it right away. She had that emergency response device. She had never used it actually before, but we got her to press the button to immediately call the fire department.
The paramedics came.
Exactly. Additionally, we planned ahead for this fact that because we're at a distance, we had someone to call. And we have since gotten even a better person to call on the ground. We're going to talk to you a little bit about that and later on in our materials about being able to use resources on the ground. And lastly, we asked Mom's friends for help and got firsthand information from them. They were able to follow with Mom to the hospital so that she was able to have friends at the hospital with her. And that was a critical part. And we can help you get ready for such an event in your life or your parents' lives too. No one likes to think about this, but this quote is a quote that was something that one of our clients once said to us, and I think it runs and rings universal for all of us, that everyone is just one phone call away from a catastrophe. We don't want to think about that reality, but we do have that reality as a part of our existence that we've got to deal with, and that's part of why we're trying to help you move along. So Carol's going to tell you a little bit about the secrets that we've discovered through doing the work that we've done. And so, Carolyn, can you tell them actually the first secret that we found?
All right. Well, this is one of the fundamentals, and I think it makes sense, and most of us know this at some level. But if you don't have a plan, it can cost you a lot of money to deal with your aging parents. There has to be a plan. We can't just wander, waiting for something to go wrong, thinking that maybe we can get out of having a disaster. We have to have a plan. That's number one. Also, this is something that really just keeps coming up over and over again. If the parents are doing okay, no one is paying close attention. We want to allow them their independence. They seem fine, but we've still got to step up and get involved, even when they're healthy, and say they don't need any help. They're really managing. Whatever it is their excuses are, we still need to watch over what's happening with them so that we can prevent the things that are predictable. There are some predictable things we're going to be telling you about. You need to learn to overcome the resistance that they have. The I don't need any help, or I don't want to talk about it, or it's really not your business will not do. We have to learn specific techniques to overcome that kind of resistance, because if you don't, then you end up with a disaster on your hands, and that's where the money starts draining away, or your time starts draining away in trying to fix it.
It's really common at this point. I know that when people try to help and they get the resistance, that they often will just throw their hands up and say, there's nothing I can do. I'm really in a helpless situation, and you know what? You're not.
All right, so when we're bringing up things people don't want to deal with, money is one of them. You have to talk about the money with your parents. If you don't, it can come back to bite you. If they put you off, keep insisting. If they don't want you to delve into that subject, bring some ally with you, a sibling, a friend, a neighbor, someone. You have to get into it, because that is a critical question. How much money do they have? Can they care for themselves as time goes by?
Another secret that we discovered is that you've got to talk about your parents' wishes. What planning have they done? And you've got to get some very specific information. And I know when I have tried to bring that up in the past with my family, I was frequently told, you don't need to worry about it. We've got it taken care of.
But what they think is taken care of really isn't necessarily taken care of. That's really part of why we have to get a little nosy, I guess you could say. Parenting your parent is a role that's uncomfortable for many people. We all have to assume some responsibility as their health fails or their mental capacity fails. They don't have to be helpless for you to get involved in parenting them. You're stepping in just in case. You get the information just in case. as Mikol had done with Mom before this episode at the emergency room.
And an additional secret that we discovered is that you've got to be involved in your parents' business. You've got to be involved in their finances. You've got to know their neighbors, their friends is crucial to your success in doing the work that you need to do. And especially, like we know, living at a distance, some 600 miles, we've got to have all that information together at our fingertips.
Another one of these secrets is that everybody in the family needs to pitch in and help you, ideally. But if you can't get help from your siblings, and that's a common problem, then move on and just do all that you can yourself. You can get other allies and resources outside the family if necessary. It's not worth it spinning your wheels trying to force people who won't help to do something, keeping you frustrated and angry.
Now, Carolyn's going to share with us some stories of some real-life cases that we've had, people and families we've worked with. And some of these people came to us, and we were honored and were able to be of some help to them in avoiding a lot of the things that you're going to see. And there are some people that actually came to us after the fact, and they could have avoided many of the problems had they taken action. So, Carol, the first story, could you tell about the disaster?
All right. Well, this is Karen's story. And again, all of these are real people. All of these cases we were involved in some way or another, while it was going on, before it was happening, or after when it was too late. Karen's had a dad who was getting forgetful, but everybody just chalked it up to getting old. By the time he was 90, he had been living alone and had been failing in his mental state. He had dementia, but as a vulnerable person with dementia, scammers had had a field day with him, and he had been ripped off for his entire life savings. He was never a wealthy guy, but what he had was enough to get by, and he could support himself. The family believed that he couldn't qualify for public benefits like Medicaid because he had a mobile home. So he had 4 children. Karen had to take Dad in, and her 2 adult kids had just gotten out of college and had moved back home. They couldn't find jobs. The bedrooms were full. Karen's working full-time. Her husband's working full-time. And then there's Dad. Where are they going to put him? What are they going to do with him? They couldn't really afford to take him in, but they had to. As it turned out, in looking back, he was qualified for Medicaid a long time before, and the fact that he had a mobile home did not make him ineligible, but she didn't know that. This is a typical example of someone not getting help and advice, not inquiring, not anticipating or looking forward, and then being stuck with the responsibility, an avoidable problem that she could have come to us with earlier and gotten a lot better outcome. All right, the next one is the 3 siblings.
What happened to the third person?
Oh. All right, so this one is about 3 siblings, and they are having a fight. These siblings have never gotten along very well when they were growing up, and when their mother got old, she developed dementia. Dementia is such a common problem and affects so many people. These siblings continued fighting about what to do with her. One thought she needed to be placed in assisted living. The other didn't want her to go there. She wanted to stay at home. Her money was limited. They were offered a chance to work things out through a family meeting, and that is something that we offer. We help people resolve these kinds of conflicts through a structured technique. They refused to do that, probably because they didn't want to spend any money. They had money. They didn't want to spend it. Ultimately, they ended up in court. 2 of them hired a lawyer, and the other one hired a lawyer. Between the 2 of them, they probably spent at least $50,000. I had a conversation with one of the attorneys after the fact. It was very sad. There's more court ahead of them. This eliminated their inheritance because everything was going to go to the mom and the lawyers. So that's an avoidable outcome that could be prevented by using resources that are available to you for conflict resolution. All right. This next story is about Dad who became a widower, and this is a signal event in the lives of many of our aging parents when one of the spouses dies. It makes the other spouse who's remaining vulnerable in so many ways. In this instance, there was a long illness, and during that illness, other people realized how lonely Dad was. He was a difficult person. He had this so-called friend at the local dry cleaner, and she started coming around the minute the wife was put in the ground after she passed away. And the so-called friend ingratiated herself into Dad's life. She finally moves in with him. She tells him she loves him. She tells him that she can't live without him. She takes advantage of him and talks him into paying off $400,000 of her debts, all before anybody really knew what had happened. Dad was difficult, and that's why the family wasn't paying attention. But they did not recognize what we would have advised them to recognize, and that is that when a spouse dies, the other spouse may be in trouble, and there are specific things we can do to try to protect him or her. This was a preventable elder abuse situation, and we were so sad that it happened.
And remember, we interviewed the old guy, and he said, you know, I always wanted to have a dry cleaning business.
Right.
And wasn't he in his 90s?
He was 86.
Right.
It was just very, very tragic, and you know, caused so much discord between everybody and among everybody there. All right, next situation, an entirely 100% preventable problem here of money. And we said we'd be specific about dollars. This is specific. This was a $10,000 failure to act. These two sisters had a stepdad who had always been really, really good to them. They loved him. They had good communication. But this dad, like a lot of dads, just didn't want to talk about the future. He had a lawyer even who set up his estate plan, and there's one of the things you're supposed to sign, a necessary paper, power of attorney. Well, he was dragging his feet, and the lawyer didn't push it. The daughters didn't push it. Nobody pushed it. Time slipped away, kept slipping away. They never had any authority in the event that he became incapacitated, and he did. He needed full-time, round-the-clock care because he had Alzheimer's disease. When he had used up all the cash he had in his accounts and it was time to get into his IRA as he got older, they could not, Marge and Mary, could not get into it because his signature was needed. By this time, he was incompetent to sign anything. So that's the point when they came to us after the fact, and it was too late. They had to get an estate lawyer to go to court and get authority to be in charge. That cost them $10,000 worth of time for that attorney and the follow-up and the accounting that was required to the court. It was really very unfortunate because that $10,000 would have gone to them or could have been saved for more things for Dad, and it was a preventable situation that advice could have avoided. All right, so the next one is a real case, which we've talked about a lot. I did a Forbes blog post about this. We've talked about it in discussions. This was a son who was hit with his mom's $93,000 nursing home bill. And this is a real case that happened in Pennsylvania. Their mother was hospitalized and then went to a nursing home after a car crash. She was low income, but no one applied for Medicaid. Where was the son? Where was her husband? Where was the family when she didn't have any money? Would have easily qualified for public benefits, but she didn't. So after she's in the nursing home, she applies, but for whatever reason, they did not accept her application. Nobody is clear about why that happened, but she got out of the nursing home and moved out of the country, and the nursing home sued her son for the unpaid bill, $93,000, and they got a court judgment against him. It went up on appeal. It was upheld that he is required to pay that $93,000. Now, that's called a filial support law. We can get more into this in some specific training that we have, but this is a map of the United States, and the orange-colored states have filial support laws where you can be forced to pay the cost of care for your aging parents. All right, the next case involves a mom named Violet who was 90, and she was running out of money. She had a home worth $700,000 in California. And there was a big conflict in her family with siblings fighting siblings. She had 4 children. The upshot was she was going to lose that home because she couldn't pay anymore on the mortgage. When she came to us for help, this is someone who took preventive action, and I got to hand it to her at 90, still sharp. She knew something needed to be done. That family meeting was very productive. A lot of options were discussed. The family was referred to a CPA who's also an attorney. A solution was worked out to change the title of the home. The result was that Violet was able to stay in her home. her child, her adult daughter and son, and her grandson moved in. They were all able to understand one another, and she was able to better live with dignity in her own home. They had peace. All right. Now, the final one is one that Mikol was very familiar with because I think he got the first call, and maybe you can talk about the $10 million trust.
Well, this was a situation that was also equally challenging and sad. Two siblings, older sister, younger brother, had been fighting all their life. The brother had a drug problem and major financial problems. Their mom had dementia, and they agreed that they needed to do something about it, but they couldn't decide, and they were fighting about it, escalating in litigation, wanting to sue one another, not being able to communicate with one another, using the attorneys to try to communicate, CPAs trying to communicate, all around trying to deal with this trust. There was real estate involved. It was very, very complicated. Sharon came to us to help, and their fighting, as I said, was really out of control. And we worked with her to help her better understand what were her legal rights in this situation and how to best deal with her brother to not fan the flames and to make it even more difficult. And ultimately, as a result of Sharon working with us, she learned some very specific steps to take, both in terms of understanding her legal rights, but how to better deal with her brother so that she could maintain what she needed to do, which was to get mom placed in assisted living and to stop the fight. The brother wanted to take her home. He wasn't competent to take care of her. It was clear. But thousands of dollars of litigation was avoided by getting us involved so that we could help her have a plan in mind, have a strategy in mind in terms of what exactly she needed to do. And God love her, she did it, and it was effective. So we're going to get into a part right now that many of you perhaps don't want to look at. So if you're one of those folks that don't want to deal with reality, this is the reality part where we're going to not just tell you stories, we're going to tell you about what is it going to cost you in terms of potentially caring for your aging loved ones. And as you can see, this is a recent blog that talked about American workers taking time off work to care for their aging parents. And this is based on some research that was done by MetLife Mature Market Institute. And what you see in the middle of the blog is the following fact, that an estimated $3 trillion in wages, pensions, and Social Security benefits will be the cost of people taking time off work to help their aging loved ones, their aging parents. So there's the price tag that we're presently engaged in, $3 trillion. Now, let's calculate the cost of care for an aging parent if you don't plan ahead, and it's critical that we need to start planning or it is going to be way too late. Now, here are the numbers that I told you might want to cover your eyes. These are the shocking realities. This is what does care cost. And all of us want to age in place. We want to not be put into one of those homes. We want to live in our own home for as long as we possibly can. Now, based on this survey that you see that was done in 2011, so fairly current, and Genworth has done a lot of good research, what we see is the following. That to keep mom or dad at home and to provide some daily assistance with the activities of what they call daily living. It has to do with dressing and personal hygiene and bathing and such. And this is based on, an estimate of, say, 6 hours a day. The price tag, here we go, the price tag in keeping mom or dad at home is $57,086. Now, that's a national average based on the cost. And I'm not sure how they costed it out. I haven't done the math on an hourly rate. But most of the time, Carolyn, isn't it about $25 an hour minimum?
In this part of the country, it is minimum $25 an hour. You can find it for less, but generally speaking, you're paying anywhere from, say, $11 or $12 an hour to $25 an hour for someone to come into the home. And that's, hourly with minimums for most of the agencies that provide workers.
All right, so now if mom or dad are willing to live in assisted living, and my mom at 90 is still living independently at home alone, and our next step is probably going to be assisted living, and we've talked about this. But look at that. The assisted living for a private one-bedroom where you get 24-hour care, and we'll explain the differences in terms of what care you get. For the average across the nation, the price tag is, ta-da, $49,500 per person.
And when they say 24-hour care, they don't mean care hands-on by a nurse. Assisted living does not provide nursing care. That's just some supervision with considerably less at night than there would be available during the day.
And so the last one is really if mom or dad need to be in a nursing home, let's look at what that cost is. Okay, so semi-private, get that, semi-private, not your own private room is $97,455.
What, no view of the ocean?
No view of the ocean and no top floor, of course. Okay, but private room, if you prefer, dear, to step up to our private facility in our nursing home, that'll run you, sweetheart, $121,363.
Oh, so that guy, Mr. Pittis, was getting off cheap. Only $93,000.
Right, exactly. So let's educate you a little bit more and share with you what Medicare does not cover. Medicare does not cover eye care, eyeglasses, dental bills, including dentures, hearing tests, and hearing aids.
What did Mom's hearing aid cost? She just bought a hearing aid.
Mom was just at Costco last week. We ran into this. She was at Costco. She said, I think I'll have my hearing checked. She had her hearing checked. And she said, well, dear, I found out that my hearing's not so good, and they suggested that I buy these hearing aids, and they're $3,500. Guess what? Medicare doesn't cover that.
Right.
So the additional things really quickly that Medicare doesn't cover are things like insulin, shots to prevent illness, health care if you're traveling outside of the United States, and the number one thing that Medicare does not cover is long-term custodial care. And we're going to talk about that in just 1 second. And Carol, why don't you talk about that, about what is long-term custodial care and what will it cover?
Well, most people think that Medicare is going to cover you if you go into a nursing home, and that's where the fallacy is. That's a myth. It does cover it for a short time if you have just been in a hospital. Part B of Medicare covers your stay. However, it will pay for you to be there as long as you need rehabilitation. If you are stable and you're past the point where you're getting better, it does not pay for custodial care. I repeat, it does not pay for custodial care. 90% or more of long-term care is classified as custodial care. That's the kind of help that people need at home. Somebody to help prepare meals, go to the grocery store, assist them with walking or getting into the wheelchair. Those basic things, the most common things. Personal assistance for somebody who has dementia. Medicare does not cover that.
So this is just a quick chart, and I'm not sure if you all can be able to read this very well, but most importantly, what I want you to I'm calling attention to is the magenta areas that you can see in the slide. And really what I'm commenting here about is that what Medicare doesn't cover is things like many prescription drugs, some outpatient hospital visits, dental care, clearly it doesn't cover. We just talked about this, long-term care facilities, it does not cover. It doesn't cover some physicians' visits. And more importantly, what I want to call your attention to is that the overall cost of care, as far as out-of-pocket, is approximately 20%. So the question is, if your parents don't have the money, where's that 20% going to come from to be able to pay for that care that they need? So we want to help you embrace how to better improve the area of family conflicts, which is something we all live with. And what we want to help you with is really improving your communication skills. You know, families are forced to communicate when there's a crisis, which has got to be the lousiest time to be able to talk to one another because emotions are running deep. What we're advocating is obviously talking and starting communication, improving communication long before that crisis happens. And for those of you that don't have good working relationships with your siblings, we're going to offer you some 4 techniques that we use, major techniques that we use in working with families to be able to help them overcome some of the conflict so that they can focus on taking care and doing the right thing for mom and dad. So the first thing you can see, which is a very important strategy, is the importance of having a common goal. You know, we're here because of mom. We're here to help dad because after he leaves the hospital, we've got some things that we need to plan for in terms of coordinating our efforts. So the focus on common goal is very critical, and it's very easy to kind of have our communications unwind when we're in crisis. And important is to be able to keep an agreement that we're going to stay in the present. No one is to bring up the past. It's so common. It's a knee-jerk reaction that when siblings are together and they've got poor relationships, that the old conflicts rise, and it's very hard for people to be able to stay in the present. We ask that you explicitly talk about the importance of making agreements in dealing best with this crisis or before the crisis hits to be able to make some agreements. And, you know, Carol already mentioned this. You know, if your parents are young enough, make sure that they get long-term care insurance. It's well worth the cost. We're in our 60s. We did the math in our 50s. And the problem is if you wait, it's not cost-effective to be able to do that.
And long-term care insurance has a bad rap. It's not deservedly so all of the time. There are some bad companies out there, as there are in every industry. This is a crucial thing. We address this much further in a curriculum that we are going to talk about, but this long-term care insurance is the only kind of insurance that does cover custodial care over time for aging parents.
And Carol, you know a lot about this, that, you know, if parents have low income, we've got to help them get legal advice about Medicaid and other benefits, VA benefits specifically. And these things are so complex and so complicated to just depend on your aging loved ones to be able to navigate the complexities of dealing with these benefits and understanding them is quite the challenge.
They can't even apply. It's too complicated to apply. So they need our help. This is more of the theme of watching over your parents, helping them while they're still healthy. Find out about eligibility, what it's going to take, and when they can become eligible if they are. All right, and then again, this is all about money. None of us are particular experts around here in financial planning. We have financial advice from a licensed person. We encourage you to get financial advice from a licensed person, even if your parents are not wealthy. You've got to learn how to use their resources over time, set money aside, preserve what you can, make the best use of what they have, because care is probably going to be needed at some point, and it costs a lot of money. And unless you want to give it to them yourself, you've got to figure out how you're going to pay for it.
And the last strategy that we find most successful is that if your parents can't pay for care and it has to come from the family, make a written plan about who will give it and how, you know, that they're going to be compensated and what others will do to contribute as far as help or money. That's a very critical thing that we do, and we get this written down. Now, you've got to be able to be ready to recognize that you may need help. And this webinar obviously is about empowering you to help educate you as to understand the complexities of dealing with caring for our aging parents and the cost of time and money that's involved. And we are here to try to help you do that, but we need to help you recognize when it's time for the help.
Don't be the person hanging off the end of the cliff.
Help me.
Okay, so I think the help that you need certainly can be brought to you by one thing that we offer to you, and that is called our results-based coaching program. It is the simplest and most effective intensive training that you can get anywhere for dealing with all of these issues we've been talking about and for a lot of other common problems that come up with aging parents. We'd love to help you. We are very passionate about this whole subject area, and we see a lot of people, as we mentioned, making terrible mistakes that are very costly to them, and we want to save you from that if we can. If there's an opportunity, that's our mission.
And it's clearly something we've dedicated our lives to and has been very much a part of us. Now, the next slide my wife told me to take out, but I'm going to share with you anyways. You know, this is not for everybody. What we do is not for everyone. We've outlined those people that don't want to take action, that just want to live in denial about the problems of their aging loved ones. Our help is not for everyone.
Don't want to spend the time, don't want to spend the money, don't want to make the effort, don't want to think about it now, don't want to get involved with your parents because they're difficult. So, our training program, results-based coaching, has requirements. The first of which is that you've got to be in a position to actually help your aging parent, either with care or with help of some other kind. If you live in a foreign country and don't speak to them and have no way to connect to them, this is not a program that would work for you. You have to also, as another requirement, be willing to invest in yourself. Again, this is about educating yourself. They don't usually give degrees in how to take care of your aging parents in high school or college. Maybe if you're in the field of aging, but generally speaking, people do not have that education, and it costs you something to invest in yourself any way that you wish to improve yourself, particularly this way. You have to also be willing to spend time learning from experts, that's us and others, about what will save you time, money, and grief. And finally, you have to be willing to do the work involved. As you learn what to do, you have to be willing to do that. This is not just about talking. So here's what our program will do for you. It will reduce the risks of having to pay for your aging parents. You don't want to be that guy with the $93,000 nursing home bill. It will help you successfully manage or repair your family conflicts. I don't care whether you have no idea what to do, or whether you only have a little bit of trouble with one sibling, or whether it's your parents who are causing the conflict. We can help you manage it better than you have before if you know what to do, and we will teach you. We will help you create your family's aging parent emergency plan. We will help you protect your aging parents with their doctors, hospitals, and care facilities. We will show you the right legal papers, really important, that you need to protect yourself and your aging loved ones. And finally, we're going to prepare you for the responsibility of your parents passing. We don't get out of this. There's no way to avoid this. We might as well learn what to do so that we are confident when that time comes. This program, the results-based coaching, is by application only, and we limit ourselves to just 15 people. We allow all of you to learn from one another in the question and answer portion of the training, but the number is limited. If you are accepted, then we're going to give you 4 weeks of intensive personalized training with us based on questions and problems hundreds of others like you have had and have successfully overcome. And that 4 weeks of intensive training consists of 2 hours each week, 1 hour at one time during the week, the other hour at a different time. The first hour is straight up instruction in all of these 6 areas we just mentioned. And the second hour each week, and these are at set times, by the way, is for your personal questions and answers, to share with the group, to listen to others, and so forth. All right, and a final thing that we give you is a private one-on-one consultation. No matter what your problem is, it's an hour consultation with both of us. You've got the benefit of our brains, and in addition to that, we offer you, as a part of the package, a bonus 1-hour family meeting. If you're having trouble with a sibling and you need someone to intervene and help you or coach you through that, we do that in that 1-hour family meeting. If you just need advice and everybody needs to get together to talk about the caregiving issues, you can use the family meeting for that. If you are struggling with your parents refusing to cooperate and you need some strategies, you can use the time for that. It's for anything that will help you get through your difficult issues. All right, so what are you going to learn in your 4 weeks of intensive training? In the first week, you will learn how to reduce the risks of having to pay for your aging parents. And that was really the point of this webinar, but we get much further in detail with that question. You're going to learn what is the surest way to cover the cost of long-term care, that big one, for aging parents if you don't want to pay out of pocket yourself. We're also going to discuss 3 other possible sources of payment for taking care of your aging parents if they need help in the future. All right, so week number 2. This is the one in which we talk about family conflicts and the details of how to do a family meeting. You will learn what is a very good approach to a difficult sibling or other person in the family who's always making trouble, and that would include anybody you don't get along with, maybe even the parent, him or herself. You will learn what you can do if you suspect that a family member is manipulating your vulnerable aging parent to get money. And we discuss in some detail in that week the subject of financial elder abuse, a very, very heartbreaking subject and one that we feel strongly about.
And the most common offenders are, isn't it true, Carolyn? The most common offenders are definitely family members.
Right. There's research on this. The government is really dealing with this rather recently, and one of the things that's of concern is the high incidence of financial elder abuse by family. All right, so in week number 3, this is where we get into detail for you about your family aging parent emergency plan. And as we discussed with Mikol's mom, we had a plan in place, and it was very successful in preventing us from spending a lot of money on an unnecessary trip and a lot of other unnecessary things because we had this plan and put it into place. We're going to help you create a clear written plan that you will have for your family in case you get that call in the middle of the night about your parents' emergency. Where you are going to know what to do, you're going to learn when to do it, and what legal paperwork you have to get that job done. All right, and the other part of that week involves protecting your aging parents with doctors, hospitals, and care facilities, and that includes being an advocate. You will learn how to get the best results you can in dealing with the care they're getting, whether it's from a hospital, a nursing home, or any other kind of caregiver, including home care. Home care is another risk area because there are people in there unsupervised for a long period of time, and there's misuse of home care workers because of a lot of lack of information. You're going to be very smart about this by the time you get done with that week number 3. All right, and in week number 4, we deal with more of the legal issues, the right legal papers that you have to have, preparing for your parents' passing. So that's 2 sections. The legal papers include a lot of things like wills, trusts, powers of attorney, releases of information, HIPAA release, all that can save you a lot of money if you have them signed while your parents are competent, and we will tell you what those are in detail. You are also going to know about the documents that you need to ensure a dignified end of life for your aging loved one. Not only do we get into the healthcare directive, but into other forms that states are using now that go even further than that. Okay, so that includes the 4 weeks of this program, and we're going to discuss our offer now. And our offer for you is this. The 4-week results-based coaching program is, as we say, the fastest and most efficient training available anywhere. This is something we have created out of the reality of what our work has been and what we hope will help you with what you need the most, what you want. It's personal instruction. You've got each of these 6 areas. The hour is at the same time every week for the instruction, and the hour is at the same week, the second hour, for the live question and answer session. That session is recorded for you to share with others in your family. Besides the presentation, we have these bonuses that we mentioned, the one-on-one consultation, the 1-hour family meeting. We are your facilitators at that meeting. We also offer you complete access to our very helpful library of podcasts. These have videos in them too. They are quick tips. They are brief, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. They encompass our 15 years of information and advice to complement the discussions and give you more data. And then for one day, each of the 4 weeks that we offer, there will be a 2-hour call-in period allowed when you can ask any questions that you didn't come up with during the formal 1-hour Q&A. And if something comes up for you during the week that is bothering you and you just want to bring it up, you'll have that 2-hour window that we offer you at a set time each week when you can call in and ask any question that you want to. All right, so the value of all these things, if you had to hire out this kind of stuff yourself from professionals like us, 4 weeks, 2 people with the degrees we've got, my 32 years of practicing law, 10 years of nursing, Mikol's 37 years of being a psychologist, that would run you $7,800 worth of professional expertise and assistance. A 1-hour private consulting with both of us would run you $650 all by itself. A facilitated family meeting, which we do for people, both of us present, that has a value of $800. Complete access to our custom-made podcast library is $500. And personal telephone access, making ourselves available over 4 weeks for 2 hours each time, has a value of $1,800. So if you sorted all these things out separately and paid for them, that would cost you $11,550. Well, we don't charge you that. This is a special thing for people who are our followers, our potential clients, our webinar attendees. Webinar attendees get a $7,000 discount. That's 60% off on the actual market value of the expert services. And the special webinar total for you is $4,550. That's $4,550 total value with the discount. But we have a Take Action Now additional bonus to offer you. That additional bonus brings the price down even further. If you are one of the first 5 to sign up for this results-based coaching program, you get a further discount of $750, and that brings your total for all that we have described for the 4-week training program with the bonuses to $3,800. And it can certainly cost you more than $3,800 to make the mistakes that we have been describing over and over with those stories from real people who have made those mistakes and spent far more than that by not getting help. If you wish to apply for our program, and we encourage you to sign up now, this is how you apply. First of all, you understand that we cannot help everyone. We want to focus on those of you who are truly committed to taking action. We limit our program to 15 so that we can ensure that you will get the best results in learning from your compatriots out there who are having some of the similar problems you are having. We then ask that you fill in our program enrollment form, and we're going to give that to you in a moment, and you make a deposit of $500. If you change your mind, that is fully refundable before the program starts. After you complete our enrollment form, we contact you within 24 hours to set up a personal conference call. We've got to talk to you so we can figure out if we're a good fit. There are some people who don't fit into this program. You could be one of them. But if you do fit into the program, and we decide also that we can help you, we will require that you pay the remaining balance due so that we can provide you next with the date and time of the beginning of the segment that you're part of. So the 4-week start time will be given to you after we have had our phone conversation personally with you. If we decide that we cannot help you after the phone conference, or it's not a good fit, we refund your $500 deposit immediately. So this is the program enrollment form, which is going to be given to you through a link. That's what it looks like. So generally speaking, you'll see it. And to sign up for our program, you click the link on the right side of the screen. And
we've got a minute. Let's go through some of the questions that we see that we've got a number of people right now. Looks like there's over 100 people that are on the webinar right now, and they have a number of questions. And let's look at the first question that looks like it is from Jane, is it?
okay.
All right,
so what's the question? The question says, what if my father refuses to even talk about finances? I have tried, and he keeps changing the subject. How can I plan anything? Well, this is a pretty common problem. There are parents who are very stubborn about things they consider private. I think your dad was like that, Mikol.
He certainly was.
Yeah, so we encourage 2 things. We develop these much further in the coaching program, by the way. So if this is not enough for you, then consider that you will get some very specific help with this kind of problem through coaching. First of all, you want to let your father know that this is for your sake, not for his sake. You're doing this because the burden of making decisions, if he can't talk for himself or needs help in the future, that burden's going to fall on you. So you want to appeal to him, not wanting to burden you, and ask that he would try not to do that and to keep it fair. That's one approach. And secondly, if your parent is really stubborn, sometimes it helps to have allies. If there's a favorite child or a sibling of your parent or anybody they do trust, lawyer, clergy person, ask that person to come in and help you with the subject of approaching your father with the money question or the need to bring that up. Okay, we have another question here.
Let's see.
Okay.
What is that?
If my parents don't have much money, how do they get Medicaid? Medicaid, as some of you do not know, is a federal, state, and county-funded program that is different from Medicare. It is for low-income individuals who have no more than $2,000 in the bank. There are certain things that are exempt from the calculation that makes you eligible. You can own your own home in most places, although the requirements for Medicaid vary from state to state. On this one, you absolutely need to get advice from an attorney or a low-cost legal clinic if your parents do not have enough money to pay for the legal advice.
Okay, and there's a question here. Okay, Roger, you said, okay, so it's to me. You said, my parents are in their 80s and they both need a lot of help. Can I get long-term care insurance for them? Well, unfortunately, Roger, the answer is no. We've talked about that. It's not cost-effective. We did the math, and basically, if you're trying to get long-term care insurance, I think we figured if you're not getting it when your parents, aging parents, are in their 50s or 60s, it's not cost-effective. So they're in their 80s. I think they've lost that window to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and the insurance company wouldn't take them.
Hey, Carol, we've only got one more question. We got time for one more.
All right, well, here's one. My two brothers are refusing to help take care of my mom, 89. How can I get them to do their fair share and help me? Well, you can't force people to be upstanding and do the right thing. We want to first encourage you to use a couple of the techniques that we suggested here, the nonviolent communication approach. This would be a perfect situation for a family meeting or coaching, but if you do not have that, remember that you cannot force them and that sometimes you have to change your expectations. If you're expecting them to help you and it's making you angry and frustrated, the only way to get out of that anger and frustration and put that to rest is to stop expecting them to help.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but we did want to follow up with what we offered to give you for those of you that have hung through the entire presentation, and we're very appreciative that you did. We've got the special bonus, the free written resource for all of those of you that are still online right now. You can get that free bonus. You can see right there at that website. Just copy that down. There should be a link on the right side that you can press on to be able to get your copy of the Survival Guide Toolkit. And I'll read you the link in case you're just listening to this. It is tinyurl.com/8356 FAV. That's once again tinyurl.com/8356 FAV. And the toolkit has a package of forms in there that are very useful for not only organizing information, but some of those legal forms that you are going to need. We want to thank you for showing up. It's been our pleasure to present the information to you. We hope that you're going to take action on many of the things that we've brought to your attention. We're glad that you're educating yourself and finding out what you need to do so that the cost of caring for your aging parents will not fall on you. Again, it's our pleasure. We want to thank you for showing up today. And Carol? Thanks so much, everyone, for coming to the webinar. We appreciate your feedback and input. Feel free to comment to us by email or any other way you wish. And we're wishing you all a success in moving forward with your aging parent issues. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you for watching How Much Your Aging Parents Could Cost You. If you need more help with how much your aging parents could cost you, feel free to visit our website at agingparents.com. To watch more helpful videos, Click here to subscribe, or watch another video. Also, check us out on Facebook or on Twitter. Thanks again for watching.